Hello and welcome to the Hat Trick presented by the ICC. I'm Charlie Stilitano, joined as always by Neil Barnett and Rocky Ray Hudson. Coming up, Real Madrid legend Emilio Butragueno will join us to talk about his time with Real Madrid, where he has spent 4 decades as a player and an executive. Just a reminder, you can hear all our shows on internationalchampionscup.com, or you can subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and iTunes. You can also hear Neil, Ray, and myself every morning on the football show on Sirius XM FC. This is the great Emilio Butragueno. Emilio is one of the great players in the history of Real Madrid, and really one of the finest gentlemen I have ever met in my life. This I must say. Him, Carlos Alberto Pajera, and Ray Hudson are 3 of the nicest gentlemen ever. Neil Barnett is not at all. I want you to know
thank you.
That's true.
He's a renegade.
So, Emilio, I always wanted to ask you this before we get into everything. Why was the nickname the Vulture? How did that happen?
Well, first of all, I'm delighted to be with you. And in this podcast, I'm honored, that we have a great relationship with you. We love you, and really, I'm delighted to be here. Regarding my nickname, well, I have to tell you that my surname, Butragueno, is really very, very strange in Spain. Very strange. And difficult to pronounce. I remember in the school, some teachers had problems saying my surname in a proper way. So when I joined Real Madrid, I joined Real Madrid when I was 18, and I started with the 3rd team. Okay, in Real Madrid we have the professional team, we have the second team is Castilla, is professional team as well, but let's say this is the top of our youth academy. And at that time we had, in that time, we had the 3rd team called Real Madrid C. And I started there. And then my teammates, because of my surname was so difficult, started calling me Buitre, Butragueno Buitre. Buitre is an animal, vulture. And that's the beginning. I didn't understand at the beginning. They called me Buitre. I said, why? But because of my surname. When I was called up or promoted to the 2nd team, there I was really very lucky because I scored many goals. And then the journalists knew that my teammates called me Buitre. And then as I scored a lot of goals, they put together both ideas. My surname, Buitre, and vulture, in nature, is there lurking around. And they say, okay, the vulture of the penalty area. And then, that's the beginning of the story.
What a beautiful name for a goal scorer. There's never been one like it. But Emilio, is it true that you were nearly an Atletico Madrid player, and is it true that your father said to you, son, I cannot let this happen? What you going to do?
Yes. I played for my school. I played for my school, and then all of a sudden, I was called for a trial, okay, at the Real Madrid training facilities. Well, I played well that trial, but those who were watching the practice session thought different. And they told me that, okay, thank you so much. I'll let you know, whatever, okay? Yeah. After 3 weeks, Atletico Madrid called me. And I went to practice. I went 3 days to practice with them. And after that, after those days, they were really interested in offering me making an offer. And I perfectly remember vividly remember one night in my room with my father, because, well, I've been very, very linked to my father. That we've been a great relationship. In fact, my father now is 95 years old.
Hey. God bless him.
And yes, and then, well, he said, well, tell me what I'm going to do. And then I said, what I'm going to do? We are Real Madrid fans. So, yes, but, you know, they don't like you. They don't want you. I say, well, but yes, but we are Real Madrid fans. I mean, in my mind was almost impossible to play for another team, all right? Fortunately, Real Madrid called me again for another trial after 1 week. And fortunately, they changed their mind and made me an offer to join the club.
Unreal.
So,
I think in Spanish football now, technique is probably the most important asset for a player. You know, maybe in Italy it's tactical awareness, maybe in England it's passion, but in Spain I think it really is technique. Was that the case when you were starting? Was technique very important? Were you someone who worked on your technique, or was it something that you were gifted with?
well, I have to tell you something. At that time, this was August. When I started with the club was August 81, all right? The following year, the World Cup was organized in Spain. And at that time, Germany had won the European Championship, all right? And they were really very strong. I mean, and from the physical point of view, they were very dominant. And that was the idea at that time in Europe. And my body, well, I'm short, I'm not very strong, I'm weak, all right? So, and then it's true that I wasn't the ideal prototype to play football in that time, you know? But probably because I was playing for my school for many years, I was good in, let's say, small or reduced spaces. So I was very quick. And I was fast in short distances and these kind of things. And, well, all of a sudden, probably I offer something different. But I have to say that at the beginning, they were very skeptical about my future because I was very short, I was weak. So in fact, at the beginning, I wasn't a great prospect, I think, for the future of the club. But in the first 15 months, I was able to overcome all the difficulties. I was called up to the second team. And there in the second team, I played there one entire season, 82, 83. But the 83, 84, that squad was fantastic because there were some very young players who were promoted from the under-19 team, and they were very talented. Well, and in fact, in the future, they became top players. I'm talking about Martín Vázquez, I'm talking about Sanchís, I'm talking about Pardeza. And Mitchell was already in the second team. So we were able to set up or to create a great team, to form a fantastic team. At that time, we played at Santiago Bernabéu Stadium, 5:00 on Saturdays. And it was something impressive how people were engaged, that there were some incredible attendance to our games. One game was completely full, 85,000 spectators for a second division game.
Did you score?
Well, in fact, yeah, we won 1-0. I scored.
Hey! Talk us through the goal in front of
even though
85,000 people.
Scored the goal. And
do you remember the goal?
Yes. Well, in fact, it was a miracle because it was a header. My scoring a header is Emilio Butragueno, a header. So I remember very well, yes. And it was in November. And in February, Alfredo Di Stefano at that time, that was our
manager.
coach.
That was the coach, yeah.
In that time, right? Alfredo Di Stefano has been
the legend of all legends.
The best player ever in the history of the club, and he was the manager of the professional team. And then he called me for the first team in the middle of the season. Was in February, and my debut was another miracle, because I remember we played in Cádiz. Cádiz is a city in the south of Spain, and at 5:00 on Sunday, I traveled with the team. Of course, I started on the bench, logically, but at halftime, we were 2-0 down halftime. So, a difficult situation. And all of a sudden, Alfredo Di Stefano approached me and said, and then I heard the most beautiful sentence I heard in my life. All right?
You're in.
That they say, warm up.
Yeah.
Say, what? And it took me 1 second to go to the pitch, just in case he was about to change his mind, and then there was an incredible evening for me because we won 2-3. I scored 2 goals, the first one and the winning goal in the last minute. So it was something.
Not a bad debut. What's it? You're very modest because you're that type of person. But 2 things I want to ask. One is La Quinta del Butre, that little group of you, the players. You mentioned them already a little bit. How special was that group? And is it, I guess the closest thing to it is we always hear we hear the class of '92 for Manchester United with Scholes and Beckham and those guys. And now we have La Quinta here. You were really...
And just to make clear, Charlie, this was 5 guys who came through the ranks and won 5 league titles in a row.
Correct. And so I wanted to know about that. How was it to play with them? How was it? Was it good for you, good for them, good for everybody, I guess?
That was a really very, it's true. It was really very special. I mean, youth academy. Our youth academy is really very important for the club. The club invests a lot of resources in our academy. All right, so it's very important for the club to be able to take some players from our academy and play for the first team. All right, to form and to develop players in our. I mean, to be able to came some players through our developing system. Okay, through our academy. So that year it was something amazing. 5 players at the same time were called up to play for the first team. It was something unprecedented, or something unheard of. So there was the year 84. It was a difficult period for Real Madrid because Real Madrid had been without winning the national championship for 4 years. Something for us really tough, it's a difficult pill to swallow, all right? Difficult. So it was a wonderful period because in that time, there were great veterans in the team. Camacho, Juanito, Santillana, Miguel Angel, they were great veterans. And all of a sudden, 5, let's say, talented players came through the ranks, joined the squad. We can say, okay, fresh air, can I say? We were extremely excited with the opportunity. And the following season, 84-85, was difficult because it was a transition season. But at the end of that year, the Real Madrid, we don't have an owner. We call presidential elections every 4 years, and the president runs the club for 4 years. So that summer, 85, Ramon Mendoza won the elections and became a new president of the club. And that summer, he signed 3 great players. Gordillo was a midfielder, a fantastic player. Hugo Sanchez, great scorer from Mexico. And Maceda, he was a center back, Spanish center back, very solid, great in the air. So there were 3 decisive signings. So with young players who came through the ranks, great veterans, and 3 fantastic signings, we were able to have a very solid squad. And that squad won 5 national championships in a row. Yes, the great team of Alfredo Di Stefano was able to do something similar, all right? These 2 teams have been the only teams in the history of La Liga to win 5 titles in a row, all right? So that was the beginning, a great period for the club, fantastic period. And then, of course, for us, it was an honor to be part of that team, to that period with a lot of trophies, and something that maybe is more important for us, because when we talk about Real Madrid, we think that Real Madrid has to win, of course, every title. But Charlie, you know that the way we have to win is important. It's not just important the result, but what we can offer to our fans. And in that way, the way we played was very offensive, very creative. So it was a very entertaining team, really. And it seems to me that that team is now in the heart of our fans, because not just because of the titles or the trophies we won, but because what that team was able to convey. All right.
You listened to The Hat Trick presented by the ICC. If you like what you hear, give us a review on iTunes or Spotify, along with any feedback you have for the show. All our podcasts, including recent exclusive with Gareth Bale and Kenny Dalglish, can be found at internationalchampionscup.com. Back to the show.
To me, Real Madrid is not about winning. It's about glory. It's about the way Real Madrid wins. It's about being the top scorers, the most entertaining side, the style with which they win and with which they play. And maybe that's why it appears as though winning the glorious titles, the Champions League, is the most important thing, because they are the most glorious club.
Well,
it just seems to be their personality.
It's true that competition is really special for us and for our fans. It's the most prestigious club competition in the world, the most difficult to win. And it's a challenge. It's a big challenge, probably the biggest challenge a professional football player can face. And probably is part of our motivation because the more difficult, the better, right? Because, but I think the great history of Real Madrid started with Alfredo Di Stefano in the 50s. Alfredo Di Stefano and Santiago Bernabeu, they made a fantastic pair, all right? One in the front office, the other guy on the pitch. They were two great leaders. They changed the history of our club, and Alfredo Di Stefano left certain values in that locker room and in that shirt. And those values have been handed down from generation to generation. So, I mean, the following generation, the next generation, took the baton and assumed that responsibility and learned the values that made the previous generation so successful. And that probably has been the essence of our club, because when it comes to players, well, other clubs, they've had great players throughout their history. But Real Madrid has been able to win so many titles for so many decades, you know? So I think that it's, crunch time comes, those values arise and help our team to overcome all kinds of difficulties.
Emilio, got so much to cover here, but I really want to ask you quickly before we move on, how did you improve as a footballer? Did you feel it yourself when this team was starting to win trophies, was starting to be, everything was coming through the heritage of Real Madrid? But you personally, what was it like for you in your own heart?
I think there are three aspects, football-wise, regarding a player. First one, your concept of the game. Secondly, your personal technique. You know, when you have the ball, what you're able to do. And third one, your mental strength. I think, and of course, when you join Real Madrid, if you don't have mental strength, you can be there for what year? It's the pressure is so it's huge. So you have to be able to handle the pressure. All right, that is very important. But the other two aspects, how you see the game and your technique. Of course, that you have to improve it, and every day is an opportunity to grow as a player. As a person as well, but as a player. So the great advantage of playing for Real Madrid is that you have great teammates, and then you are learning from your teammates. And in the practice sessions, and you have fantastic defenders who are trying to block you, it's a permanent challenge for you. And of course, that every day you can improve. And in fact, that's your goal and your obligation. Playing for Real Madrid, well, I think it's the same for other great clubs. You have to be aware that you are representing millions of fans all over the world, that they are fully committed to our club. They love Real Madrid, and they're very passionate about every detail of our club. So you have to be aware of that. And then when you play a match, you are defending that feeling, that spirit. And on one hand, it's a privilege. On the other hand, well, it's a responsibility as well. But it's really very important to have that demand. Not as a hurdle, but as an extra motivation, because you know that you aren't alone. There are millions of fans supporting you, expecting and hoping that, you are going to make them happy. Because at the end of the day, that's the goal. To make our fans happy and proud of being part of Real Madrid, of this excitement. All right.
I'd like to look at some incredible statistics. If after you'd won your league titles, if I take you to 1990, Real Madrid had won 25 titles, Barcelona had won 10, Atletico Madrid, and believe it or not, Athletic Bilbao had won 8. Real Madrid were, by a distance, the most successful team in Spain. But since then, in the 1990s, Barcelona won 6 titles. They won their first European Cup Champions League. And this wasn't Barcelona moving up to compete with Real Madrid. This was Barcelona moving up to compete with all of Europe. And in this century, Atletico Madrid have done the same. And we've seen them in 2 Champions League finals. What happened that these clubs made life more difficult for Real Madrid and for the rest of Europe? And was that a good thing for Real Madrid in a way?
Well, they've done it very well, of course, as organizations, all right? And they have great professionals, and we all know competition is fierce, all right? Atletico Madrid is a historical club, all right? The rivalry here in Madrid is fierce, all right? They've been always very competitive. And over the last 15 years, they've done it really very well as an organization. They reached 2 Champions League finals, and they are really very competitive. And we got the Barcelona. Barcelona is a great club, all right? They are able to get a lot of revenue, and they have great players. So of course, it's an extraordinary organization. So of course, they've done it very well. The competition is fierce, and something that has been very positive. For Spain as a country, that we've been able to compete at the highest level with several clubs: Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid in Europe, and Europa League with other clubs. Sevilla, they've been able to win several European titles, trophies. So it says a lot about Spain as a country. We've been able to develop a lot of great players and a way to play based on technique and on trying to set the pace of the game, regardless of the opponent and regardless where we are playing, that make us very competitive at the international level. And that is, says a lot about the organizations. In our case, about our president. It's important to highlight that our president joined the club in 2000. And his arrival meant a turning point in the way our clubs were run. And he was able to turn a difficult situation into a very successful one. And for example, the last 6-7 years has been incredible in the sense that we've been able to win 4 Champions League in 5 years, something that is incredible feast, incredible achievement. In a sport where it's extremely difficult to win at the highest level, Champions League, we have to say, it's very, very difficult. Every detail counts. Every detail could be decisive. And then winning 2 years, winning once is very difficult. 2 years in a row, almost impossible. But our team, has been able to win 3 in a row, 4 in 5 years. So it says a lot about our players, the competitiveness of our players, And something which is very, very important as a club, that complacement doesn't exist in the club. I mean, every time we win a trophy, that's the beginning to conquer the next trophy. It's part of our DNA. We have a winning mentality. The objective is to win titles, to win trophies. But once you've achieved your goal, you are already thinking about your next goal. You know, it's part of our history, and probably is one of the reasons why Real Madrid, well, has been able to win so many titles in different decades.
What did it mean, La Decima, to the club in 2014?
Well, really...
when you think that no other club at that stage had won more than 7. AC Milan had 7.
Right.
And Real Madrid was the first club to 10.
Well, you know, the club made a great effort to build a champion team, all right? In fact, we've reached the semifinals 3 years in a row, but we weren't able to reach the final. And I remember we played the semifinal against Bayern Munich, a fantastic team, very strong team. We played the first leg at home, 1-0 for us. A very even game. Second leg in Munich. Germany was a difficult country for us. Historically, we weren't able to get good results there. And the atmosphere, imagine, semifinals, second leg. And, but the team played at, the performance of the team was amazing. We beat them 4-0. And then finally, after 12 years, we were able to reach the final. The other finalist was Atletico de Madrid. Very cohesive team, very strong defensively. We know each other perfectly, so difficult game. We knew it was going to be very difficult. It was very even match. In the first half, they scored 1-0 for them. Second half, with 20 minutes to play, we took the control of the game completely. But, time was running out. 1-0. 5 minutes to play, 2 minutes to play. So it was terrible for us, you know. After so many years reaching a final, and we were about to lose. The team, didn't give up, but Atletico Madrid, they were able to keep the lead. And all of a sudden, 93 minutes in the injury time, a magical moment arrived. All right, that was the corner, famous corner kick, and the header of Sergio Ramos. 1-1. We went to the extra time, and there in the extra time, we scored 3 more goals. That was a turning point in our recent history because the team achieved their main goal, and they convinced themselves that they could do it again. Following season, we reached the semifinal, but we lost to Juventus, very even tie, but we weren't able to get through to the final. But the following 3 seasons, the team again reached the final, and they were able to win the final. So that team reached, this is something amazing, reached the semifinal of the Champions League 8 seasons in a row. So it's incredible at this level to reach the semifinal 8 consecutive seasons. It says a lot about that team and about their competitiveness, their winning mentality, their teamwork as well, because at the end of the day, you can, of course, you need to have extraordinary players. Cristiano was incredible player for us. But at the end of the day, the team is the most important part of a championship. I mean, the team. The player has to be aware that he has unique talent, but that talent, he has to use it to help the team, to serve the team, and to use, if I can use that verb, the talent, I mean his teammates' talent, to grow as a player. So this is really very important. At the end of the day, this is a team effort. This is a team sport. So you have to be aware of that. It's said that, I mean, the strength of the wolf is the pack, all right? But the strength of a player has to be the team. I mean, if the team is really strong, you'll have more opportunities to win titles. And in that way, you're going to grow as a player, and your prestige as a player is going to grow as well, all right? Because regardless of the individual statistics, the great, what make the difference is the trophies, all the trophies you have been able to win.
I remember being in Madrid, and Jose Angel was saying to Sanchez was saying to Ramos, like, you know, you guys were coming up to another big game, and Ramos said something like, "Don't worry about it, kid." Like it was the way he said it, and I asked Jose Angel Sanchez what did he mean by that, and basically he said to me that they know that when they get in the Champions League, not to worry, stay calm, and they only have to win their 7 games, whatever they have to do. But he said it in a not in an arrogant way, but in a very confident way. And it seemed to me that the mental state was almost as important as the fact that you had great technically talented players. And in the beginning, you said you need that mental toughness to make it in Madrid. It seems like this particular team had an incredible mental toughness as a team.
Right, but I have to tell you something. I mean, the whole club, and there I include our fans. A Champions League game is something special for everybody, for our fans as well. Because Real Madrid has been so prestigious worldwide because of the Champions League. So we feel an enormous respect towards this competition. And we owe a lot to this competition within, at the same time, that for the competition, Real Madrid is important as well. So when we play that competition, I mean, Champions League game, Champions League night is sacred, okay, for a Real Madrid fan and for everybody, because it's the competition. Of course, that every time we play a match, we want to win. It's part of our DNA. But Champions League, is our competition. It's the most difficult and most prestigious club competition in the world. And then every game regarding this competition is something really special for all of us. And I have to tell you something. The media coverage is so wide and so huge that when we talk about the prestige, and Charlie, you know that for us, prestige is very important. Your prestige is there when in Champions League, because the game is going to be broadcast worldwide. And then, someone in Indonesia are going to do something special to watch the game, someone in the United States, someone in Kenya. And then we are aware of that. and then we have to respect our fans because we have to live up to their expectations, and our players, they are aware about that. And I have to tell you, I mean, from the professional point of view, you love great challenges. The more difficult challenge, the better. Is because for you it's extra motivation and say, okay, I would like to show what I'm made of. And then when you play champions like semifinals, quarterfinals, plays against Bayern Munich, Juventus, these kind of matches and the atmosphere at the stadium are really special. The anthem of the competition, just at the beginning of the game, when you're hearing that music, there is something special. You know that day there is a lot at the stake, and then you have to give your best to help the team.
You're listening to The Hat Trick, presented by the ICC. Remember, you can hear all of our shows on internationalchampionscup.com or subscribe on Spotify and iTunes. To get more from Ray, Neil, and me, tune into The Football Show, weekday mornings on Sirius XM FC.
For such a club of the highest prestige, and every club makes mistakes, every club in the world none of them are perfect. It's part of the greatest equation that can never be solved of how you keep going onwards and onwards and upwards without any problems. It's impossible. Every team has a readjustment. How does Real Madrid, what's the process for Real Madrid to, for example, replace these legends that have played for Real Madrid, both in your time, carried on through today? We see the way that Iker Casillas, for example, is now saying he regrets the way it ended up for him. And Iker was one of the greatest legends in Real Madrid's history. But nothing can always be kept to be perfection because it's humans, isn't it?
Right. Well, it's difficult. Yes, there are some players that are so good that it's almost impossible to find a perfect replacement. Right. So we have to understand that, but we always try to do our best to have the best possible team, the best possible squad, not a team, no, the first 11, because nowadays, because of the calendar is so tight and the schedule is so difficult. The fixture list is too tight for our players. You need a squad, not just 11 players. You need a lot of players, a lot of great level. So it's very important, the role of the club, to be able to assemble the right squad to compete for all the competitions. And it's true that when all of a sudden you are able to have some of the best players in the world, and sooner or later, unfortunately, everything comes to an end, and then you have to replace, so to renew or renovate the team. That is a challenge. It's not so easy, all right? And that sometimes takes time. But our challenge is, to do our best, trying to get as much revenue as possible, to have enough resources to strengthen the team every summer. That's our goal, because our goal is to win every trophy the following season. All right, we know it's very difficult, but that's the idea from the very beginning. Every season, I've been in the club since 1981, all right? Every season is the same. Every season. The goal is to win everything. And then during the season, football is football, and it's almost impossible to win everything. But that's the goal, and the whole organization work on that direction. Okay. To win everything. Yeah. And regarding Real Madrid players, different features. Winning mentality. A Real Madrid player never gives up. Never. That is part of our culture, and that is something that our fans demand from our players all the time. So, I mean, you have to fight until the last second of every game, all right? That is essential. Teamwork, very important as well, and offensive mentality. We have to attack all the time. We are in a defensive team. We play attacking football. That is Real Madrid. That's
the culture.
That's our culture. All right. So that's it. And then after that, I mean, the most talented player, if it's possible, to play as a team, to be very cohesive, to be generous, to be selfless, and well, you need luck as well. Without luck, it's impossible. But you need the other ingredients, the other tools as well, the other elements to aspire to, well, to compete against the best. Well,
I just want to say one thing first, that he's been married for 37 years, is it, Emilio? How many years?
Well, no, this is something, I don't know I should say this, but I've been very lucky I've been very lucky in my life for many reasons. Of course, playing for Real Madrid has been one of them. I'm working for the club now. But another, and really very important for me, has been my wife. This is a football meeting, let's say. I don't know how I can say this, but let's say that it's been a great signing so far.
Perfect.
Well, Ray, I want to say this. He said during this thing, he said he heard the greatest words he ever heard were warm up. Which is fantastic. Okay. Now,
better than I do.
That he's never, ever, ever had a fight with his wife.
No.
But
Right.
that's true. But I'm going to call her and say that it was not you that gave him the greatest sentence of all time, but it was Alfredo Di Stefano who said, warm up. Unless he's going to tell me he said to his wife before the wedding, warm up.
No, yes. We are going to celebrate, 30 years next year. We've been celebrating 30 years. And 5 years engagement, let's say, dating. So 35 years together, yes, without an argument. Well, I have to tell you, because our profession, we spend a lot of time traveling and this kind of things. It's an advantage as well, not to have an argument at home. But yes, she's wonderful. She's very patient, extremely patient, and very generous. And she's able, to make an effort to make me feel at ease, So in that sense, she's able to sacrifice herself for the family. So that's why I think has been very, very lucky. And in fact, she has a lot of merits by putting up with me for so many years, I have to tell you.
Has she always been a Real Madrid fan?
Well, more than me.
Wow.
More than me, yes. She's been a member of the club, yes, for more than 40 years. Yes, yeah. She loves Real Madrid. She loves Real Madrid.
Emilio, what was the transition like for you from the player and then into the advance of the director of football, and now in your position today? That's got to be a big...
I have to tell you something. When I was 28, I studied business administration while I was playing, okay? Because I remember the first day I went into, the professional team locker room, I look at those players. So incredible experience for me. But in that locker room, Del Bosque was there. let's say I was teammate of this Volkswagen for several months. I I was called up in February, and in June, Del Bosque announced his retirement. And then I said, well, if Del Bosque is going to retire, it means that sooner or later I'm going to face that situation. So then that day, I've started my degree in business administration, and that day, my idea of finishing my degree was even more clear. Okay, it was clear. And that's why I decided that I was going to study business administration. At the age of 28, it was clear for me that after my retirement, I wanted to go back to the club, but at the executive level. I didn't like to go back as a coach. I didn't have that call, but yes, as executive. So when I returned in 2000, it was really very important for me because, well, Real Madrid is in my veins. I've been a member of the class since the very first day of my life. I went to the stadium with my father to watch every game when I was a boy. And then in 2000, Florentino won his first election in July. Jorge Valdano joined the club as a general manager, sports general manager. And then Jorge called me to help him in that department. And then I was appointed the deputy general manager. And of course, I feel honored, to go back to the club. And above all, at the beginning of a period with a new president, a very successful businessman like Florentino Perez, with a great vision. Florentino Perez is a forward-looking person, and then he transformed the club into a very modern organization. And in fact, I feel I've been very privileged, to be part of this period at the club. And then it was really very interesting. And from the sports management point of view, to be part of this process. In 2006, Florentino, in 2004, he won again the elections. But in 2006, he resigned. I left the club with him, and he returned in 2009, and then he called me to go back to the club, and now in a different position as Director of Institutional Relations. In fact, my current post didn't exist in the club and was created for me. And then I've been there for 11 years trying to help the president and the club. And it's a great honor for me, of course, playing for the club as a footballer. And when I retire, have the opportunity to go back to the club and help my club from other positions. So I'm very grateful, of course, to Florentino. And now I'm going to turn 57.
Yeah.
So I'm getting old, but
you're the youngest one on the call right now.
Yeah,
with the four of us.
That's right.
When the league was suspended, Emilio, Real Madrid were 2 points behind Barcelona.
Right.
But Barcelona still have to come to Real Madrid if the league gets finished. So everything to play for. Will the league get finished? How is it in Spain?
Well,
what's the preparation?
You know that we've been through a very difficult period, very difficult. We've been confined for more than 2 months without living home. So difficult period for everybody. But now, little by little, we are going back to normality. And the league received the permission from the government to restart the competition. And they are working on that. And we are, well, optimistic, let's say, that we are going to play. In fact, the team, they've been practicing for the last 2 weeks. So we are preparing, for the competition again. And we are really very excited.
Will the games be played at Valdebebas, Emilio?
Well, the games on paper, there, of course, we are going to play behind doors, all
sure.
right? Without public, because of sanitary matters. So, yes, we asked the permission to play in Valdebebas. You know that we are revamping the stadium. It's a very important project for us. When Santiago Bernabéu was inaugurated in 1947, that was a turning point in the history of the club. Because at that time, the only source of revenues was ticket sales. And then Santiago Bernabéu, our president in that time, devised a strategy to to build the biggest stadium in Europe, mm-hmm. to get more revenues than other clubs to buy the best players in the world. With that money, signed Alfredo Di Stefano, and everything changed. All right. Now, we are entirely convinced that the revamp of mm-hmm. the stadium is going to be another turning point in the history of the club, because, the new stadium is going to have all the more advanced technology, and is going to help us to get a lot of revenues for different concepts, and to provide a fantastic service to our fans, and to provide incredible experiences to our fans. Trying to adapt to the modern times, all right? Mm-hmm. So it's another challenge, but we try to adapt to all the challenges that we are facing, okay? And there, our president, I insist, has a great vision, and this project is really very important for us, and it's going to take 3 years, something like that. And so we are on the works right now.
And even though this new stadium is going to be beautiful, it's going to have all the fancy incredible machines, right, and all the technology, it'll still not stop the Madridistas from booing some of the great players.
No, but all of us, we're very excited. Our fans are very excited. Sure. Because the stadium is going to be a state-of-the-art stadium, and they are going to be very proud. They realize that, the competition is fierce right now in football. Great clubs with, great managers, and then we have to keep up with everybody, and if it's possible to lead the way, and we need to invest in the club, and they know that we are doing with the purpose of growing as a club, because at the end of the day, the main goal is to have the best possible players to win trophies. And for that, you need a solid organization that can be able to get enough revenues to strengthen the squad every summer. That's the goal.
Emilio, you've given us more than an hour of your time, and I'm
Now,
embarrassed.
You have to talk to my wife now.
Yeah, I know exactly. Tell her. I won't tell her the warm-up story. I won't tell her that if it makes you feel better. But we can't thank you enough. And you know, I'm going to come to Valdebebas at the Alfredo Di Stefano Stadium when you guys play those home games. That should be a lot of fun, my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
for
you very much indeed.
My pleasure.
That will do it for another episode of The Hat Trick presented by the ICC. Many thanks to Emilio Butragueno for joining us. We have some great stuff planned over the next few weeks, including an exclusive with Gennaro Gattuso and Marco Materazzi that should be out next week. Listen to all our shows on internationalchampionscup.com and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. For Neil Barnett and Ray Hudson, I'm Charlie Stolitano. Until next time, a domani!